Awesome, awesome. Well, I guess we could start here, Chuck. If you want to start out with the intros, and we keep
Sure,
going from
sure,
there.
sure. Well, first of all, thank you all, and welcome to the Going Beyond Esports to Computational Sustainability for All. This has been an awesome day, or last 2 days, I would say, about computational thinking, computer science, STEM education, and what some of the great partners, not just those who are doing it here in Georgia, but those who are doing it around the world and around the country. Computer Science for Good is an awesome conversation that talks about what these individuals are doing, not just computer scientists, but what are we as all shareholders and stakeholders doing in the conversation. Myself, I am the executive director of SOSSI, Saving Our Sons and Sisters International, but I'm also an advisory board member for CS for GA. And we've had some success in terms of putting some things together, getting people involved from all parts of the community. I remember when we started the effort back in 2016, when we had people from all over the country and throughout different parts of the state of Georgia being a part of what we saw as computer science education for the state of Georgia. Since then, a lot has happened. We've written grants to the Smithsonian Shell Education Summit, where the CS4GA has been chosen as the model for the country. So the country's watching what we're doing here in Georgia. And as a community partner, I just want to be able to reach out and bring people to the table like yourself and some of the partners you have to be able to share this experience and show people that it doesn't matter whether you're at the top, or at the bottom, or in the middle, your contribution matters. Whether you're an educator, former educator, or the parent of an educator, or a child in our school systems, we want to make sure you understand where the resources are. So as we go into this conversation about esports, I want to go ahead and kind of pass the mic to my brother, Eric Thomas, who we actually went to high school together and had an opportunity. I went to Morris Brown College. He went to Tuskegee, but his parents, his father went to Morris Brown College. So there's some other connections. And I'm sure you all have heard about the esports gaming certificate at Morris Brown College, the first state certificate in the state of Georgia for esports and gaming. So congratulations to you all on that effort as well. And I'm working on an initiative, and one of my partners just shared with me that the esports and gaming industry made over $200 billion and is planning to do more over the next couple of years. So this conversation is really about how do we talk about the pipeline. I've heard computer science opportunities from kindergarten all the way throughout the pipeline in terms of high school. But we also need to talk about the alternative education opportunities and apprenticeship opportunities. And I know you're going to touch on that a little bit as well. So again, welcome to the floor, Mr. Eric Thomas.
Hello, everybody. My name again is Eric Thomas. I am co-founder of Pharaoh's Conclave, along with my wife, Dr. Chiquita Thomas, where we prepare you for esports careers. We do that in three major ways. We first have an online skills building platform called Level Up Academy, where young people are able to go in, meet them. We meet them where they are, build their skills and capacities in whatever area they would like to work in esports. We also have a Youth Esports League that serves as a living lab. So if they want to compete, if they want to go into the shoutcasting pathway or the tournament organization pathway, they're allowed to do that in a safe environment. And we also have an apprenticeship program that starts at the age of 16 and goes throughout college. We take young people in for internships and employment opportunities in the summertime and throughout the school year. So we're very excited with the work that we've been doing over the past few years here in Atlanta, Georgia. We have definitely been working to make sure that esports is at every level. So elementary, middle, high school, and collegiate level. Right now in the mainstream, what you're seeing is on a pro level and college level and a little bit into high school. But when we first looked at the this space, we were looking for, well, who's going to be the next generation of professionals in this arena? Who's training those professionals? I myself been in the K through 12 space, middle grades and high school, math, science, and history. And my wife being on the collegiate level at computer science, first at, well, she came from IBM, then went into in academia at Spelman College, and now is at Auburn University teaching game design for social change. So we've been very, very intentional about what we wanted to do. We want to give opportunities to that next generation, and partly because we have three of our own. 7-year-old son, an 11-year-old daughter, and a 12-year-old son as well. So they are into gaming. We taught them game design since they were kindergartners. So they've been around this, and they got to compete in our most recent championship. We did our Youth Esports League National Championship, where we had students from K through 12 students from Georgia, Louisiana, and South Carolina competing, and we gave out over $20,000 in scholarships and tech scholarships at that. So some of those young people are going to college, and they're going to use that money for college, but some of them are going to use it to buy some of this equipment that's needed. And we all know when we're talking about the digital divide, that access is there, but you have to have the equipment in order to access the things that are there. And so some of those young people are going to be using it to buy gaming PCs and other things that they need in order to pursue a lot of their dreams that they have in their careers. I see someone in the chat was saying, I'm trying to get a league at my middle school. And if you could put in what middle school you teach at, that's definitely somewhere that we're working on. We have several middle school students that are working with us. We not only do it at the school system level, but we also do it with the youth-based organizations such as SOSSI. Also, we work with boys and girls clubs, churches, youth organizations. Wherever the young people are, you're going to find us, and that's who we want to reach, definitely. Okay, Barber Middle School, I'm going to make sure that I reach out to you and let you know what we're doing as well, because I think everybody on here knows that since 2 years ago, Georgia sanctioned esports as a varsity level sport. And so you can now letter in esports, and some of our schools have gotten behind that and become part of that scene, but we have a lot of schools who have not become a part of that. And so we want to make sure that we are giving that opportunity to our young people so they can do what they would like to do at their ages. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to play a video for you, and I'm gonna run through the video in a couple of different spots. First, I want to start with the beginning part of the video, and then I'm going to take some questions, and then we're going to go from there. And like I said, because I'm a classroom teacher, I love to. Oh, I'm going to pause that. Because I'm a classroom teacher, I love interactivity. No one can hear it? Okay, I did pause it, so that may be the reason why no one can hear it right now, but I'm going to mute myself and play it again, and you should be able. Okay, thanks, Yolanda. I'll start it again.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. Can you say something, Eric, so I can hear you? To make sure I can. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I can't hear you though. Okay.
I was on mute.
Okay, I got you. And I guess while we wait, while you're trying to go through that, if you could talk about the young lady who had no aspirations to go to college, but you were able to share an opportunity with her. I think that'll be very informative for the group that's with us today.
Definitely. And what I'll do is I also fast forward it a little bit to kind of start off with what it looked like when we worked with you as well. When we first started to work together around esports and the opportunities in esports. But we had a young lady, Carver High School. She was very interested in graphics and interested in definitely being a part of the esports ecosystem, which includes cosplay, which includes animation, anime, and I'm sure these are all things that you heard from your students that you work with. We don't have to do a whole lot. We don't have to do a whole lot to encourage our young people to be in these arenas. They're already here, but what we want to do is take their passion and marry it with the purpose that they have for them to go ahead and move into this area. And what you'll see in a minute is that there are two number one questions that a lot of our young people have around this industry. Number one, they don't know what careers exist, and if they do know about those careers, they don't know exactly where to get started. And so that's what we wanted to do with Pharaoh's Conclave. That's what we designed it to do with those young people. So we're going to pick up with the video there. And Autumn, I'm about to email you, but I'm hoping you can hear it now. Let's try it again. And we're going to pick up right there where we started with that. And then also a little bit of memory lane for everybody as well. My wife made this, and as you see that we made this for CS for PA. And so everybody around the country is looking at and wanting to get into this, and they're looking to Georgia for what we're doing right here. So we want to make sure that we are doing what we need to do at home and to be that example for everybody else in the country. And what you see here is DreamHack in Atlanta, Georgia, one of the largest esports conventions that is happening around the world. Atlanta was one of the first places they decided to come to here in Atlanta was one of the first places they decided to come to here in Atlanta, in North America. And we were able to bring in about, can you hear me now? It's probably being overshot. Can you hear me now? Okay. And so one of the things we did here was we wanted to show young people what these type of conferences look like, and what they could possibly be doing at these conferences. This was our first instantiation, and now you're going to hear from my wife, Dr. Chiquita Thomas.
Eric, can you hear me? I can't hear you. I can't hear anything. So if you all can hear me, I can't hear anything right now, but
Hey Chuck, everybody can hear. I mean, I think you might be the only one that can't hear,
no,
but
yeah,
everybody else can hear.
yeah, I think the only person I probably can hear is you, but when you were talking, I can hear you until you just unmuted. So maybe it's something in the system, but really quickly, what I'd like for you to do though is if you can talk about the young lady who you all gave that scholarship to, just so we can kind of keep it going. And I want to make sure I touch on the computational sustainability part because I know some of the other attendees may want to check out some other sessions, and I also want to get to a couple other things as well. I can't hear you right now.
Okay, but I was if you check the chat, I was letting you know where we were in the chat on that one. But everybody else could hear on here.
Okay.
We were talking about one of our current students that is going through our program right now, and then I'll follow that up with the student that we currently are giving a scholarship now to Morris Brown as well.
Awesome.
Thank you for your patience on that, and I hope that showed you a little bit of the breadth of the work that we do. Currently, this year, one of the young people that we are working with, because I will be teaching at Morris Brown College in our eSports degree program. We will be at the Ronald Floyd Thomas Center for Esports and Innovation, who was my father, who was a graduate of Morris Brown College. I will be full-time teaching there in the degree program. And one student from Carver High School, she was very interested, and one of our partners brought her to us, and we sat down and we had a conversation. She wasn't quite sure where she wanted to go to school or what she wanted to do. And we were looking for a student who was interested in our industry and had aspirations of going to school, but didn't quite know the direction. So we could put her into our pipeline. And we're very happy to announce that she will be attending Morris Brown next year. She graduated this year, and we'll be moving forward. We're also currently recruiting 20 students for the program this year as well. I saw a number of questions in the chat. Of course, we know that funding for these types of programs is very scarce, or so we think. But because we are STEM accredited, and we map to the Common Core standards, and we are in line with CTAE curriculum, we are eligible to meet any other funding requirements for Title I and Title III funding as well. So those are some areas that we can look for funding. Also, we have fundraising opportunities that we do with a lot of our partners and foundations around the Metro Atlanta area as well. So where you can, I'm going to put our email in the chat. This is one where you can reach out to us. Also, you can check my profile in Hopin as well that has information. But if you want any additional information about what we do, and you would like to speak with us about helping you to start an esports program at your school, we are definitely looking to talk with everyone, and we want to make sure everyone has that opportunity to do. Are there any other questions? And Chuck, did you want to add anything as well?
Eric?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason it wasn't letting me. I couldn't hear anything. All I could do is see your lips moving and the video moving, but that's it. But yeah, I mean, the whole idea is that we understand that esports is bigger than just the gaming aspect that most people know about or have heard about. And a lot of our young people are into gaming, they're into the esports piece, but we realize that there's some essential skills that they are developing by doing the gaming and esports. And so we want to make sure that we develop pipelines, because CS for Good is not just about looking for other people to come up with the answers, but it's about developing, the environments that we're in as well. One other thing that I just, happened 2 weeks ago is I was able to get my Microsoft 365 certification from some of the initiatives that are going on here in the Atlanta area that are providing apprenticeship programs and opportunities for teachers to get that same type of certification. I've even spoken to them about a program they have with Microsoft Word that allows teachers to help support literacy. And I think that's important, right? How do we find other ways to be able to get people certifications, apprenticeships, so that they can earn extra funds, but also help them to do their jobs a little bit better, right? That's the whole idea. But creating that pipeline is very key. And that's where the computational sustainability conversation comes in, right? For those of you who don't know, computational sustainability is just as simple as computational thinking, computer science, and sustainable development goals, United Nations 17 sustainable development goals that there's already been a lot of research put forth to effort. In other words, how do we take these high demand skills that these young people are developing in computer science, in gaming, in esports, and pipeline them into some of the high demand career needs? For instance, some of the young people that we worked with in the past with Year Up got into esports and gaming that pipeline him into cybersecurity career. And one day when we were at the actual Dream Hacks conference that Eric provided 3-day passes to our young people to, when you talking about building out that pipeline, I heard my nephew ask the young man, how did you get into hacking? He said, because I got hacked out of a game. That was an aha moment for me, because most of us would have thought, oh yeah, everybody's going to go and get a higher ed education degree before they go into those type of things, but not necessarily. When someone has a passion for some of these things, they're going to find a way to get in. And he was able to hack back in without calling it an adult to show him how to do it. And so how do we make sure that young people who have an interest and passion and those skills get pipelined into those positive opportunities? Because if not, somebody else may be able to identify that skill and use it for something that is not beneficial for that young person or their family. And so I appreciate the work that Eric and his team is doing and some of the other individuals are doing. And we just want to make sure that as we continue to talk about CS for good and computer science, we also think about how can we use computer science and some of the data sets and some of the tools and trainings that are available to actually solve real world problems. Like how can we think globally, right, and act local? Many of the solutions are not going to come from people necessarily always outside of our communities, right? Somebody may show us the framework, but in order for us to sustain it and for those communities to be resilient, we have to have individuals like Eric and myself who are former teachers who have been able to go from the classroom and now into the community and be able to bring partners together to support the public education, and also being able to build a pipeline to some of our HBCUs who have a role to play in this conversation. So kind of as we get into the next part of the conversation, Eric, what role do HBCUs play in the esports gaming and cybersecurity career pipeline?
Awesome. We were jumping there. I'm also monitoring the chat, and I know that Miss Sutton asked a good question. It said it seems like games that are popular in esports are not inclusive of girls or people of color. That's one of the reasons, again, why we started and we're doing this work. If you Google esports, the images that you're going to see are going to be white male or Asian male predominantly, but that is not the truth of what's being out there. That's what's being pushed. And so what we have to do is make sure that we're controlling the narrative and really talking about some people on the ground floor that are doing a lot of the work. As of right now, I have a virtual summer camp going on, and I have 5 high school interns and 5 collegiate interns. And 8 of those 5 interns are Black female students that are in our program. Probably about 8 years ago, we started a program called SCAT, where we work with 25 African-American young ladies that were in 6th grade. And, the esports and gaming hasn't always been welcoming to that demographic for the young girl or the children of color. So we had to build something that allowed them to thrive. Just like you see in any traditional sports, once you have access for young people from our community, if they're given true access, they can thrive in it. And so these young ladies have just completed all 25 of them have just completed their first year in college, where all but one of them are in STEM-based majors, be it computer science, engineering, or so forth. The other one I'm okay with because she's English liberal arts major because she wants to be a lawyer. So, again, once you start working with these young people and unlock that block in their minds that they can't do something or they haven't seen themselves doing something, it allows them to then push forward and play with them. And so, again, we have a lot of women that are game designers that are designing games that have more of that feel. My wife will often talk about how a lot of the games that are out there are dark and violent, and they're not made for women because they were created by men. And so only way that we can combat that is by putting more women into the workforce that are creating games that are made for women. But we do have a lot of people of color and women of color who are creating games right now that are out there in the indie development world. And these are the people who our young people in our camp get to meet. They get to see individuals that look like them that are creating games with their culture being a part of the game. And so they want to make sure they're changing that that dynamic as well. And so the GHA, the Georgia High School Association, the way they work with the games that they really haven't chosen any games or banned any games for them to for the young people to play. However, we have a standard that we do not go into. So the games that we will not play shooters when we play with our K through 12 students. We are looking for games that are more on the fantasy side, but also we will play the fighting games like Street Fighter or Smash Brothers. But again, those are more cartoony games that don't really show that level of violence that we want to keep away from our young people. Now, we do know our young people are playing games like Call of Duty and CSGO that are ultra violent. However, we want to, if we have them in a program that we are part of, we then teach them, okay, how do you deal with that toxicity? How do you look at those games in a way to, okay, how can we make those games more appetizing for the mainstream communities to play, and understand the difference between what's a game and what's reality, because you have to do that as well. So we don't look at just playing games as what we do. There's nutrition involved, there's physical fitness involved, there's mental health involved. So we meditations, a lot of different aspects of reflections that we do with our students. Because again, we know coming out of COVID, and unfortunately, one of the schools I work with, we had a student to commit suicide. And that was because he felt like there weren't any options for him. And what we want to do is make sure that these young people know that there are options for them. But again, you have to put it in front of them so they can see those options and not just hear about them. And you have to be deliberate about the pipeline and taking them safely from place to place. Our partners come in, they already know they have to provide internships for our students. They have to provide employment opportunities for our students, and they have to provide feedback and networking for our students. So our students are not only, as they're in our program, building their portfolios, but they're building their networks as well. So they're able to meet with industry professionals and to find out what was their journey, what would they have done differently, what advice do they have for them for what they want to do. And Chuck hit on it before. We set up our pipeline to where young people, before they graduate high school, can have game design certifications, graphics art certifications, social media marketing certifications prior to going to college. And what we preach is college should be an incubator for your idea, as opposed to going there to try to get a job. If you're going to college to try to get a job, you're kind of behind already. You should already go in and be planning for what your next step is going to be. So either entrepreneurial or intrapreneurial mindset is what you're going to have going through the program that we've been working together to put forward. Any more questions out there? I love these questions.
Yeah.
And again, and before Chuck, I was going to say, and then again, if you just do some research in STEAM, but also you can do some research on what are some games developed by women and women of color. You will get a list of games that have been produced by those women as well.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that we don't forget about the question I asked too about the pipeline, because I think sometimes, we work with the other PWIs out here, right? But I think enough is not said about what's happening with the HBCUs and what is their role, what is their responsibility to do this, to be at the table right now, like, having this conversation, because the gap is only getting wider, right? And so, just touching on that a little bit, and because I know the panelists may have some other questions too. The attendees, but I just want to make sure that we cover that. One, what's the role of the HBCUs? And then the young lady who had no interest in going to college, why is she going to college now?
So the roles of the HBCUs of a historically Black college university is what it has always been. When I graduated from Mays High School, which was in Atlanta, Georgia, the APS system, of course, most if not all of our high schools were predominantly Black schools. I did have the opportunity to go to the Naval Academy. And so upon spending 1 year at the Naval Academy Prep School, I was in a different place. It was not a place that was speaking to me. It was a place where I saw a lot of unfairness. and it wasn't as nurturing as I knew historically Black college university, which was my first choice, Tuskegee University, would have been. So I left that prep school and went back to Tuskegee University, which where I probably should have gone first of all. But again, it's to be a safe place for young people of color, because what we see are professors that look like us. We see a system that is built for us. That's one of the things when we're talking about accessibility here in America that we don't sometimes look at, because school systems were built for factory workers. To be honest, it was never built for entrepreneurial minded people to come out of. It was just, you just had it innately in you that allowed you to be able to go across to that next side. So the schools that first started having majors, or excuse me, scholarships to attend through esports were a lot of predominantly white colleges and universities. However, within the last 2 years, more HBCUs have come on board to offer those opportunities as well. Like I said, Morris Brown College is one. We're the only one who I know are offering full scholarships right now to students to attend school, but also not just. And Morris Brown is unique because in regaining our accreditation, you know, we have the leadership who wants to make sure that we're providing not just degrees, but certifications, not just for school, not just for college students, but for dual degree programs, also adult education, so people can add to what they already have. Because again, if you know, society is moving fast. What you thought you needed certification wise 2 years ago, there's a whole nother set of certifications that you need in order to move forward. And so coming from the construction industry as a civil engineer, I know, and that was something we had to do every year in order to make sure we stayed relevant. And so what we have to do is prepare our young people to have that mindset to maintain relevancy as they move forward.
Correct.
Okay, I'm just reading out the chat here. I know that I have another comment here from Autumn again. Autumn is doing great. Autumn, if you want to come up on the panel and join us in, come right on. You hit the moderate the panel button at the bottom of your screen. I can add you right up here because I like to hear your voice with these. If you don't mind, we can pull you right up here and have some discussion with you, because I think you have a lot of great insight. But Autumn was saying, I believe that HBCU should also recruit the many students of color in suburban schools. And I wish that HBCUs could have more college fairs to introduce their programs to the Black and brown students who are, here she comes. Oh, there you go. Awesome. Hey, Autumn, how you doing?
Hey, Autumn, welcome.
Well, both of you guys hit on things that, I'm sorry, I was typing a lot, but with the HBCU, Lord have mercy, historically Black college and universities, and I played basketball, and I was always recruited by, PWI institutions, and I have 3 degrees, and they all came from PWI institutions or PWIs. And the only experience I had with HBCUs were my mom went to Fisk, my grandma went to Lincoln, but that was like more out west. Fisk is in Tennessee, but like I didn't really, because the other Black students I grew up with, nobody was talking about HBCUs. And so when I was at Florida State in grad school, I had an opportunity to take some classes at FAMU because there's a partnership. And so if there's classes not offered at one school because they're both state schools. So anyway, long story short, I'm really glad I had that experience because it's something that, there's like a sensitive thing in our culture between Black people who go to the PWI as opposed to the HBCU. And it really angers me because it's like, I feel like there's a sense that the students who grew up in the suburbs don't want to go to HBCUs, but is it one of those things almost like, sorry if this isn't a bad analogy, but like in Black Panther, it's like, well, did y'all come looking for me? Did y'all forget about me?
Right.
You see what I mean? And it's like this feeling that when I went to FAM, everybody was cool with me until they figured out I was a student from Florida State. And then some people kind of like cooled off a little bit, like, oh, you one of them. And that hurts me in our culture because I just went to a training last week, and I won't say the name of the college, but a college here in Georgia, very good college, well respected on cybersecurity. And I would never send my children there because it's a college that is in an area that I would be afraid to send my Black daughters there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So where do my Black daughters who grow up an hour outside, are going to grow up an hour outside of Atlanta,
Right.
where do they fit? Because if they go to HBCU, are they going to be treated like, oh, you went to one of those schools? But then if they go to a school that's a majority school, now I'm fearing for their safety, not because of the people on campus, but because of the people in the little rural area. Do you see what I mean? And so the only time I taught in a county in Atlanta that's in Metro Atlanta, that's a diverse county, and the only knowledge I ever had of HBCUs coming out was because Black teachers who were an alum of a certain institution, like literally called their school and was like, y'all need to come out here. And so when you say, how are we doing this? We have to forget, I'm glad that our schools that are predominantly of color are getting this attention. And I taught at a Title I school, and I was amazed to see like how many people would come to those schools and offering this program, offering that program. And it was wonderful. But then I've also taught at schools that you still have 25% of the kids who are Black and brown. When you add that up in suburbs around our country, that's a lot of kids of color that we're forgetting about, who would probably like to find a home at a HBCU, who don't even know that Morris Brown has built this program. They don't even know that Spelman. I didn't even know that Spelman had a computer science program now. Because when I was a kid, it was just a fine arts. It was fine arts only. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm talking too much. But that's all I was just trying to say.
You're not.
My experiences,
not at all.
That's one of the issues I feel like we as color is this division between like the Blacks who went to school, white people, as opposed to the Blacks who went to all Black schools. Like in basketball, I played with girls who went to Mays. Like you probably know them. You know, we played AAU. We didn't care. We wanted to win. So in summer league, we played. It didn't matter where you came from. If you were good, we played together. And I feel like in education, we need to take that same attitude with computer science, especially because our kids need that support. When they get to college, I don't care if you're at a Black school or white school, it's a hard major. You need your circle of support who are going to help you with your study groups and getting through. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
So, can I turn my camera off now?
Sure.
And let me just say, Autumn, thank you so much for joining us. What you said was right on point. And last time, I think, Eric, we had somebody join us last time we were having a conversation.
We did.
And what you have to say is critical, because we can't be up here on the stage having this conversation if the audience like yourself won't even step up to say the same thing. The reason why we do the work we're doing is exactly what you said. We keep telling people there's more people who want access, but we also realize that the talent pool to go and do that work is aged for most of the HBCUs. I had a chance to go and see. So I've done some stuff with UNCF, and it took me out to Silicon Valley, and I had a chance to see what some of the HBCU leadership in computer science looked like. Well, unfortunately, many of our best talent has gone on to these major corporations and have never returned. So we need not only the HBCU alumni to come back, but we need PWI graduates. And it's not just about Black and brown people helping. We want anybody who's willing to help and support. Like Morris Brown would not be where it is on its way back up if other people who are not alumni and historic Vine City residents, if they didn't decide that we want to keep this school alive, it wouldn't be where it is.
But I think now maybe because I see Brian, he said he was at FAM. So Brian said there was an issue. Maybe it's a sensitive issue that people who go to PWI feel. But I remember when I was at Florida State, we had a professor who had graduated from Hampton, had taught at Howard, and he had progressed. And so finally he was like a tenured professor at Florida State. Mm-hmm. And when FAMU had some issues with their athletic department, he left Florida State and came over to FAM, and he was trying to have FAM follow some things that he had seen done at Florida State. And he personally told me that he was not welcome, even though he was a graduate of HBCUs, even though he had taught at HBCUs. It was almost like once you go with the other folks, you can't come back. And that's what I'm saying. Y'all know some people feel that.
I have you. So
and
let me
like I heard Naeem Akbar speak one time when I was in college, and he said, go out to other places, learn what they're doing, and then like what you just said, Mr. Barlow, make sure and bring it back. But people have to be welcome to know they want me back. Do you see what I'm saying? And I feel like y'all know there's some issues with some people where it's like this line, and there can't be that line. We got to fix that. in my
So,
opinion.
so yeah, let me address that really quickly because again, my wife was an example, and several of her friends. She went to Spelman, like I said, graduated with computer science degree, went to Georgia Tech to get her PhD, and she went to Silicon Valley to work. She left IBM and went back to Spelman, and she progresses as far as she could. One of the things we got to understand, our HBCUs are very under resourced and they are antiquated behind a lot of the best practices that allow universities and colleges to continue to grow. And so because of that, I put it like this, and I say this all the time. I say some of the worst Black institutions to work for are going to be the HBCU or the Black church. And one of the reasons I say that, not because we're not welcoming and we don't have something that will allow us to grow and develop into what we need to be. It's just that it's very traditional and it's very hard to change that tradition to something that needs to happen for the future. All right. But what I will say is recently and bittersweet because of COVID, definitely, we've had HBCUs had to take a hard look at what they have been doing and knowing that they have had to make a change in order to progress, to stay viable, to stay open. And so in order for them to do that, they've had to, have a little turnover, bring in some fresh blood, if you will, at various levels, not just at the professional level teaching, but also at the higher levels, provost level, the president level. A lot of those things have had to change as well. And so if we can continue to have these conversations and we are banding together our alumni to help us go back to the schools and demand the schools to change with the times, that's one of the things we need to do. Also, HBCUs have a little bit of a marketing problem. When it comes to when I was growing up, we had the Cosby Show. You were looking at Hillman, and you were looking at It's a Different World. So I was like, I gotta go to a HBCU. You had movies like what's Spike Lee's movie? Oh my goodness!
Do the Right Thing.
Not Do the Right Thing. School Days. Thank you. I mentioned School Days again. That put you right on the AUC campus again. And same thing with Hillman. A lot of those pictures were from Spelman and from the AUC as well. And those were things that were down the street. So we got to do a better marketing job, a better job of connecting to the schools that are surrounding area. And like Brian was saying, eSports and CS can help to bridge a lot of those gaps because if you're going on what the students are interested in, and if you're showing that you have something for them, they will come to you. So now that I'm saying to young people, hey, we have a degree program, they're looking at Morris Brown. They're wanting to come to Morris Brown so they can be nurtured and to grow into what they are interested in. And so we have to make sure we're doing that. We're not resting on our laurels of the past. We're moving on to the future, and we're letting that inform how we want to grow and continue to grow. So CS and eSports, these are things that are going to be around forever. They're not going anywhere. These are industries that are going to continue to grow. And if our young people are going to be able to compete globally, they have to be a part of these industries in order to be able to compete globally. Like right now, we're partnered with programs out of South Africa. We're partnering with programs out of Europe and South America as well. So because, again, this is a global industry that we're in. And so in order to do that, we all have to be open-minded, and we can't say, hey, go put those video games down. We got to say, hey, bring that video game over here. Let's see what we can actually figure out something for you to do, how to make your career. How can you make a better game? How can you do like what Chuck said, how can you not be hacked on your game and go into cybersecurity? So those are things that we have to be open enough to do. We actually have a minority serving institutions eSports conference, classic and conference in September here in Atlanta that are going to talk about these issues with the college professors, with the provosts and the college presidents and the students as well, so they can figure out how they can be supported. Because it's actually not just an HBCU thing when it comes to eSports. All colleges and universities, I work with Georgia State, I work with Georgia Tech, I work with other Wiregrass, I work with SCAD. They have the same problem trying to have an eSports program as well. So we are all still trying to figure out, which is a good thing. That means that this has not been solidified. This is a grassroots level industry that everybody has an opportunity to get into right now and grow with it. It hasn't. There are no rules right now. Nothing has been written in stone, so the opportunities abound heavily in CS and esports.
So I know it's coming up on the 5:30 time. I got two questions for you all. I got one question for both of you all. One thing I just wanted to share before I ask you all that question is that I'm actually the son of a technology general manager. My father was a general manager when I was at Mays High School of a technology company. So I grew up with a different aspect and a different understanding about, leadership in the tech environment. But I did see that he was a loner in that space. And one of the things that I want to ask you all is, where do we go from here? We've shared a lot today. I know I work with Eric on, with elementary school kids. I work with them with kids at Washington where they actually created illustrated gaming figures as well as started doing the game design. Where do we go from here? And then lastly, we have IT, cybersecurity apprenticeship programs available for 16 and up right now. We also have opportunities for teachers to gain some certifications. And most importantly, in partnership with CS for GA and our team, we're planning to do a statewide gaming, robotics, drones, and esports gaming competition. So any and every teacher, even non-teachers, adults who want to support it, because one of the things we realized the pandemic has caused everybody to have to work in a virtual environment, but we need to do something fun. I think having our young people coach our parents and coach the adults is going to be a great experience that we can learn from. So thank you all for being at our session today.
Well,
Thank you.
What great timing. It is now 5:30. We are getting ready. All of the information was wonderful. Thank you to Autumn for being brave enough to get on screen. That took a lot of guts and courage. And just to be transparent and honest, you guys gave a lot of great information. So with that, we have a 5-minute transition, and we will be meeting back on the main stage to discuss coded bias. Thank you so much. And everyone, thanks for tuning into this session.
Yes, also check out our Bitmoji classroom. You can find all of these resources that we shared in our Bitmoji classroom. And I would encourage everybody, don't forget about the Bitmoji classrooms. That is something that the elementary schools picked up on, but it's a place where you can put things on there and people don't have to search around. They can go to one document and have all the images be clickable. So thank you all again and enjoy the rest of the summit.